This is Anti-Paper Business Club by Opus Capita. I'm Hana, that's me right there, and my job here is to pass on the wisdom of my marvelous guests onto you all. Listen up. All right, welcome back to our video series. This time we're going to talk about a serious topic, which would be the world economy. And for that, I have with me our CFO from Opus Capita, Christian Hillstad. Welcome.
Hello.
And Tommi Kouhi, our product manager for invoice automation.
Yeah, hello.
Welcome. And why invoice automation? Well, it's one of the most cost-efficient ways to bring savings, especially to your accounts payable, by automating manual work. So, the current world economy, the situation is quite bad, right? It's looking like all the companies need to save. You've probably heard this. You're probably struggling with it yourself. So, Christian, kind of from the CFO perspective, how does it really impact companies? What is happening?
Well, I think companies generally want to save. The situation now puts a bit more effort on it because the inflation is high. People are spending less. There's less business on retail. So obviously they are looking for other places to keep their profits up. And one of them is obviously to get more efficient in the administration and the way that we are handling our interactions with partners and customers.
Yeah, it tends to be typically so that efficiency and cost savings go hand in hand. But can we be maybe a little more concrete? So let's talk about the elephant in the room here. We've got quite a big pile of paper. And this is basically to say that, unfortunately, still the reality is that there is paper used in companies in a lot of things, but also accounts payable, accounts receivable processes, right? So, Christian, first, why is this an issue? Why should we get rid of this?
Well, apart from the environmental side that you want to save paper, is of course very work intensive. It takes a lot of time internally. It takes a lot of time from our people to be able to sort through everything. Obviously, there's a lot of transactions that are being done electronically now, but there's still a lot of paper, and it sort of comes back to the accounts receivable and accounts payable organizations to try to do something about it. Because the ultimate goal would be to have no paper, right? And that's kind of what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I'd like no paper. And
get rid of this,
exactly.
This stack.
Exactly. All right, so, but what are the concrete actions that companies can actually do to get rid of this?
Well, I think it's to be aware of it, because it's actually quite difficult in a company with all the spaghetti of systems to realize that you are actually using paper still. There's still people that are getting invoices, getting purchase orders by email, and what do? They print it out.
Haha, and now I've got a question for you, our listeners. Have you been printing out your invoices to actual paper? And if yes, why?
And if they don't print it out, they actually get it sent to them rather than just go straight for the electronic version with a system that sort of talks to each other between your partners and yourself and yeah.
Exactly, and this is what we want to accomplish.
Yeah.
So one of the ways to do that, of course, will be invoice automation. So, Tommi, usually we claim that invoice automation brings you savings, it makes you more efficient. Why is that?
Why it is that? One thing is that if you don't have the papers anymore in the different offices, you have those in one central place. So where you're going to have the access to everyone who has the proper rights, they have access to invoices.
Oh yes, and then once you have all the invoices in one electronic format, you no longer have to send papers back and forth. But it gets even better. Hear this.
And then you can also automate the invoices. Some repetitive tasks, like if Opus Capita is sending the invoice, then please set it that Hanna will be the reviewer and Christian will be the approver. So easy tasks which are repetitive, you can automate very easily.
And of course, nobody wants to do repetitive work, right? And it all sounds so smart. So I'm buying it. I want to do it. But then, how can we still have all this? Why isn't, for example, invoice automation more widespread? Why isn't everybody doing it all the time?
Maybe the one reason is that they have their old processes, they don't want to change those. So because every time I have gotten the invoice in paper and I have put my sign there and then put it forward. So that's maybe the biggest reason there. Yeah. They don't want to change the old.
Yeah, I think it's you sort of get used to it.
Yeah.
It works. You don't want to try to change something that is working. So you kind of, it's just hidden away in your organization and you just continue as before. But I mean, if you get your accounting, your AR and your AP organizations involved in it and saying, hey, we're going to get rid of paper, let's see where we are, you can actually do quite a lot without disrupting too much. And the result of it is that you can be much more efficient. You can use your admin and your finance resources on much more useful and valuable things.
We'd love to hear your thoughts, for example, in the comments. Is it really that you're just used to your old ways? Because these guys are great, but let's not take every word that they're saying. But let's move forward, because we talk about automatic three-way matching, for example. We want to match invoices to some document that verifies that this was correct, for example, the order. So for that, you need the other message types. But then again, CFOs typically work with money and invoices. So what do you think, Christian? Why is it that the CFOs should care about the delivery and ordering processes in a company?
I think that, you know, in the old days you sent letters. It didn't matter if it was purchase orders or invoices or what it was. So it was very slow, and more we have gone into, you can say, more electronic, like PDFs, etc.
Unfortunately, PDF invoices may be digital, but they're not the same as data in a structured electronic format. But getting all your invoices and orders, for that matter, into a single electronic format means you can exchange that data very efficiently between systems.
Because, you know, a company usually has a huge spaghetti of systems, and they don't want to change all systems in one go. And we are trying to help them to also connect that outside your own, spaghetti stuff with your CRM systems, your ERP systems. And the way you can do that the best way is to do it modular, with modules, so that you don't have to change your SAP or your Unit 4 or whatever system it is that you have. You can just connect it with what we are delivering, or what some of our competitors are delivering. Of course, we are better, but
Of course we are. All right, but I like it. But now I'm getting worried because it sounds like if your reality is that you're emailing or printing out orders, and now we're saying that you need to do all of this electronically, it sounds like a big, massive, project for implementing a system, and quite a big investment too, right? Is it really?
No, I wouldn't say that it is. Initially you'll have to make the decision, but it's more about the discipline of the organization and making sure that you can actually utilize what you're buying, the system that you decide to go with. And the systems that we have, they are just connecting to the standardized setup. The fields are the same. A purchase order number is a purchase order number. If you define the fields on both sides of the fence, they are going to connect, right? So it's not really a big problem.
Tommi, do you want to maybe open up this a little more, especially from the invoice automation point of view? What difference does it make if you get at least some of the orders in electronically? How does it change the game?
Of course it helps, because then you have the data already there in the electronic format. But the most important thing here is again changing the process, so that you have good quality purchase orders, so that you can have the data when invoices coming in. And also the data in the invoices needs to be good quality, because if that is totally mess, then there's nothing to compare against.
So, for example, if you're ordering a laptop with free form order that only says 500 euros and black color, please, that doesn't help for the matching. So the orders must contain info like the order number, supplier and buyer details, item details like product codes and their quantities, in addition to the price, and all that in a structured, machine-readable way.
So then we have a possibility to automate that three-way matching, or matching in general.
Sounds good, and I suppose if you do it partially, at least, if you have part of the orders in electronic format, then you're that's one step forward.
Yeah, exactly.
Are there other means then to bring efficiency to the AP process, let's say?
Of course there are, and quite often it depends on the industry where company is. So in some industry, the purchase orders are the main thing. If they are a manufacturing company, for example, then the purchase orders are the main, let's say 90 or even 95% of the invoices are purchase order related. In some businesses, there's no almost at all purchase orders at all. But then they can automate the processes via contract matching, for example, recurring invoices. From this supplier is sending invoice with 900 euros every month. So then you can automate that, or utilizing the data on the invoice, either on the header or line item level. So via the automation rules, you can also automate the processes.
What he's saying is that you don't necessarily need the orders to do AP automation. You can automate based on any document or any piece of available data. But then, Christian, I'm wondering, how do you know when you've done enough? How do you know you're getting back what you invested and you're in a good enough level?
Yeah, I think the biggest problem is if you try to do too much in one go. That's why it's a good solution to say you can do the invoice sending part. If you have a lot of invoices going out of your business, you start with that, or you do the invoice receiving because they are completely disconnected as a service. You can do the invoice automation, but you can do that without doing everything else as well. So it's kind of do it step by step, see what is more important, what doesn't work very well in your company, and start with that, and try to do it step by step, so that the investment isn't so big. And I mean, I'm 100% sure that if you are still doing a lot of manual invoice handling, where invoices go lost and you get a lot of messages from Kronofogden in Sweden, for example, that you haven't paid, you can save a lot on the administration side and on the partnering side with your vendors, making sure that you're actually delivering what you are supposed to deliver to them.
I like the sound of that, and you will find a lot more about that on our website, for example. And then you will find both of these gentlemen on LinkedIn if you have questions for them, and you can also contact us from our website. I think it's time to wrap up though, but I also have the biggest urge to knock over this pile of paper for one reason, because it's kind of on our way, also because we want to get rid of it. We hope you do too, but we don't want to waste paper though, so instead of knocking that over, we're actually going to save it in good condition and donate it to a local kindergarten for drawing paper, so it doesn't go to waste. All right.
Because we don't need it. We don't use it.
We don't need it. Yeah, we definitely don't need it. But kids will hopefully love it. All right. Thank you, both of you, for this talk. It was a very good one. And stay tuned for what's coming next, because next episode will be quite a cool one, talking more about how we get the data flowing without paper. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.